Welcome back. After her friend was sentenced to life in prison, Christine Yoo began exploring the lasting impact of incarceration. Through volunteer work and her latest documentary, 26.2 to Life, Yoo aims to understand how people with life sentences find ways to continue living. Let's take a look.
Listen up, everybody. 6-minute run. I want you to go all out.
3 minutes down.
Push it hard.
3 to go.
Look at statistics. It's less than 1% of the population has ever finished a marathon. Typically, I don't question any of the inmates about their crime. It really doesn't matter much to me what they've done in the past. What matters to me is what are they doing now and what are they going to do in the future.
When I was growing up, I never thought I would ever end up in prison. Never ever thought about even coming to prison. And one day, after working or drinking, I saw her while she was pregnant and she had to go have a C-section. The baby ended up dying 28 days later of an infection. I said, I deserve to die. I deserve to be in prison for life. Since he died, now I'm paying for it.
There's no reason that he's in there for as long as he is. That's all his choice. I can understand the laws are the laws, but I have the right to be mad at my dad. No one's gonna take that from me. I know he feels sorry, but tell me then. Because I share my feelings. Why can't a grown man share his? To his son.
The director and producer of the film joins me now to discuss 26.2 to Life and her journey bringing these stories on screen. Christine, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Now, before we talk about the film in general, I want to learn just a little bit more about you. Can you tell us about your background as a director, producer, and writer?
Typically, I have originally a narrative background. I did one independent film before called Wedding Palace, which is actually the complete opposite of 26.2 to Life in many ways. Is actually a Korean American romantic comedy. And then, actually, really, since working on this film, I have switched over really to explore nonfiction and have been working on a number of TV series, both for History Channel, for National Geographic, Oxygen, et cetera, PBS, et cetera.
Now, I really want to talk just about your background volunteering, at a prison, which eventually led to this project. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Actually, my background with volunteering grew out of the production of this project.
Okay.
I had originally read about the Thousand Mile Club in a magazine article, and because of my relationship with my friend who is locked up, that is really what, as you mentioned it earlier, what drove my interest. And then after principal photography was finished, I continued to go into the prison to run with the Thousand Mile Club. I spent a lot of time there, not filming during production and after production. And one of my main participants, his name is Rasan New York Thomas. He's originally from here. One day we were running around the yard, and we both are slow runners. So we would always run at the same pace. And one day we were on the upper yard, and he said, my dream is to become a filmmaker. Would you be my mentor? I was looking for ways to continue to be involved with the prison, and so then became an official volunteer at the prison's media lab, where I collaborate with incarcerated filmmakers.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, can you just talk a little bit about just the overall inspiration behind 26.2 to Life?
When I first read the GQ magazine article, I'm not a marathon runner, but I do run on a daily basis, more in the 3 to 5 mile type of range. I have never completed a marathon, but, knowing what running has just done for me personally, I could immediately see what the benefits, how people in prison could benefit from the act of running. That really combined with the experience of my friend who was falsely accused and wrongfully convicted, those two things actually really led me to want to explore the Thousand Mile Club. How do people, knowing if they're going to be spending the rest of their life locked up, um, how do they deal with their daily lives? I think we think of when people go to prison as almost like death. We tend to talk about people in the past tense is one thing that I noticed during this experience. So, indeed people do go on living, and I was really interested to explore that question.
I really like that you kind of mentioned that because it just made me think about running is probably like one of the healthiest things that you can do to help preserve your life and to be healthy, and so to kind of bring that in, like you mentioned, to a space where people think of like life sentences as death is almost symbolic. Did you see it that way as well?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, no. And one of the things that the coaches would tell me is that most of the people who sign up, who originally begin running, most of the people are doing it for health reasons, to lose weight, to just be in shape. But the reason why they stay, and the reason why it's become the most popular athletic program at the prison, is because it's a community of people, in an environment where people live segregated along racial lines. This is a community of people that is very diverse, consists of all races, and having that ongoing community engagement with the coaches who are volunteers who come in from the outside. Um, that has created a community that also has continuity for people who, for example, when they get released from prison, they develop relationships with the coaches, and these relationships definitely continue and actually help with the reentry process as well. And it's really a beautiful thing. The coaches, you automatically assume that people who are in prison would benefit from these relationships with free people. But what was also equally moving to me was the fact that the coaches have also been equally transformed by this process. And I can just speak on my own behalf as well. Just even having the honor and the privilege to make this film, it's been a transformative process for me as well.
Now, I want to talk about the film because I understand that it also explores a darker side to prison and, what some of the people did to get there. We kind of heard a little bit about it in the trailer. Now that you had time to reflect, what was that experience like?
It was really tough. There was, the policy of the Thousand Mile Club of the coaches is not to ask people their crimes. The coaches meet the guys on the track for the people that they are today. And the coaches make that very clear. However, as a filmmaker, as a journalist, as someone who wants to get to the truth, I was really interested in exploring, both figuratively and literally, what brought these men to the starting line at San Quentin. And I would ask that and kind of, let the guys take that question where they wanted to. But I thought it was very important to explore their criminal background. I just certainly didn't want to shy away from it.
Now, what did you want people to know about this particular prison or just about people who have been incarcerated in general?
Um, what I'm hoping that we can actually do with this film is promote the idea, to show the idea that community engagement works. There is a quote from Nelson Mandela. He said that in order to really know a country, we need to go inside its prisons. And, one of the things that struck me, one of the very first times that I went inside, and you think about, okay, what are the factors that create success for people? It's usually access to education, some kind of mentorship, or family relations, an intact, supportive circle. many of these men experienced the complete opposite. They didn't have education, didn't continue their education, didn't really have a supportive family structure. And many of them also had addiction problems. So there are certain patterns that become immediately available. And I really hope that this film will encourage people to want to explore these issues. And we really want to actually, not that running is necessarily the answer to mass incarceration, but the idea that volunteers go inside the prisons, um, real change, as we know, happens from the ground up. And what I've seen Coach Frank Rona do with his community and helpers and volunteers, it may not necessarily change the quote unquote the prison system. I mean, we're talking about obviously millions of people here, but they are making an individual impact that has a ripple effect. And I have seen for myself how lives have changed.
I do want to just
And I think that's equally as important.
I just want to interject and let everybody know that the doc will be available online for screening until November 27th. Can you just let everybody know where they can go to see it?
Yeah, sure. It's part of this year's Doc NYC. We just had our worldwide premiere this past week, and the film will be available virtually through the Doc NYC portal to November 27th.
And then how can people just stay up to date with you?
We have a website, SanQuentinMarathon.com. We are on social media on Facebook. It's 26.2 to life. And we're on Instagram, SQ Marathon. So my team, we answer everything, any kind of outreach we look at and we answer. So we encourage people to reach out to us.
All right, Christine, thank you so much. One, for sharing this story and then joining us to talk about it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it so much.
We'll be right back with more Open BxRx Tuesday.